Okay, Hare Krishna, my dear devotees, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Today we're hearing from Canto 3, Chapter 32, text number 19. And this verse says, Nunan Daivena Vihata Ye Cha Chiuta Kata Sudam Hitva Srinvani Vanti Asad Gatha Pur Isham Iva Vid Ujaha. Such persons are condemned by the supreme order of the Lord because they are averse to the nectar of the activities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They are compared to stool-eating hogs. They give up hearing the transcendental activities of the Lord and indulge in hearing of the abominable activities of materialistic persons. Okay. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Everyone is addicted to hearing of the activities of another person, whether a politician or rich man or an imaginary character. Yeah, like Superman or something like that, whose activities are created in a novel. There are so many nonsensical literatures, stories, and books of speculative philosophy. Materialistic persons are very interested in reading such literature, but when they are presented with genuine books of knowledge like Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, Vishnu Purana, or other scriptures of the world, such as the Bible and the Quran, they are not interested. These persons are condemned by the supreme order. As much as a hog is condemned, the hog is interested in eating stool. If the hog is offered nice preparation made of condensed milk or ghee, he won't like it. He would prefer obnoxious, bad-smelling stool, which he finds very relishable. Materialistic persons are considered conditioned because they are interested in hellish activities and not in transcendental activities. The message of the Lord's activities is nectar, and besides that message, any information in which we may be interested is actually hellish. Okay, so any message of the Lord's activities is nectar. Okay, and besides that message, any information in which we may be interested is actually hellish. So we should only be interested in the message of the Lord's activities. Okay, text number 20. Such materialistic persons are allowed to go to the planet called Pitri Loka by the southern course of the sun. But they again come back to this planet and take birth in their own families, beginning again the same fruitive activities from birth to the end of life. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Purport. In Bhagavad Gita Bhagavad Gita, 9th chapter, verse 21, it is stated, or it is said, it is stated that such persons are elevated to the higher planetary systems as soon as their lifetimes of fruitive activities are finished. They return to this planet, and thus they go up and come down. Those who are elevated to the higher planets again come back into the same family for which they had too much attachment, and they are born and and they are born, and the fruitive activities continue again and until the end of life. There are different prescribed rituals from birth until the end of life, and they are very much attached to such activities. Okay. So these verses that we're reading now are about people who are not devotees. They may do some spiritual things, but they're not really interested in being liberated. They are like what you would call, they prefer obnoxious, bad spelling stool, which they find very relishable. So that means they're interested in very mundane things. And because that they're condemned, because they're interested in hellish activities and not in transcendental activities. The message of the Lord's activities is nectar. And besides that message, any information in which we may be interested is actually hellish. So most people are interested in, video games and mundane news uh, and just mundane activities of famous people, but they're not really interested in hearing Bhagavad Gita or Srimad Bhagavatam. Okay, text number 21. When the results of their pious activities are exhausted, they fall down by higher arrangements and again come back to this planet, just as any person raised to a high position, sometimes all of a sudden he falls. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. It is sometimes found, by the way, turn this light on. So, see your phone.
They moved it out earlier.
Oh, they did?
Maybe it is outside.
Okay. It is sometimes found that a person elevated to a very high position in government service falls down all of a sudden, and no one can check him. Similarly, after finishing their period of enjoyment, foolish persons who are very much interested in being elevated to the position of president in higher planets also fall down to this planet. The distinction between the elevated position of a devotee and that of an ordinary person attracted to fruitive activities is that when a devotee is elevated to the spiritual kingdom, he never falls down, whereas an ordinary person falls even if he is elevated to the highest planetary system, Brahmaloka. It is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita, Brahma Loka, that even if one is elevated to the higher planet, he has to come down again. But Krishna confirms in Bhagavad Gita, 8th chapter, 16th verse, Mam upekya tukonteya punat janma navidyate. Anyone who attains my abode never comes back to this conditioned life of material existence. Okay, so it's a very nice verse. Bhagavad Gita 8:16. Mam upekya tukonteya punarjanma navidyate. Anyone who attains my abode never comes back to this conditioned life of material existence. Text at number 22. Tasmat tvam sarvabhavena vajasva parameshtinam tad gunashrayaya bhaktya vajaniya padam bhujam. My dear mother, Kapila Muni is speaking to his mother. I therefore advise that you take shelter of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, for his lotus feet are worth worshiping. Accept this with all devotion and love, for thus you can be situated in transcendental devotional service. Well, the son is giving good advice to his mother. Kapila Muni is speaking to his mother. The word Parameshtinam is sometimes used in connection with Brahma. Parameshti means the supreme person. As Brahma is the supreme person within this universe, Krishna is the supreme personality in the spiritual world. Lord Kapila Deva advises his mother that she should take shelter of the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, because it is worthwhile. Taking shelter of demigods, even those in the highest position, like Brahma and Shiva, is not advised herein. One should take shelter of the Supreme Godhead. So there are many, many people that take shelter of Lord Shiva. Not so many of Lord Brahma, but Lord Shiva, so many people are Shaivites. Sarvabhavena means in all loving ecstasy. Bhava is the preliminary stage of elevation before the attainment of pure love of Godhead. It is stated in Bhagavad Gita, Buddha Bhava Samanvitaha, one who has attained the stage of bhava can accept the lotus feet of Lord Krishna as worshipable. This is also advised here by Lord Kapila to his mother, Devahuti. Also significant in this verse is the phrase Tad Gunasrayaya Vakya. This means that discharging devotional service unto Krishna is transcendental. It is not material activity. This is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita. Those who engage in devotional service are accepted to be situated in the spiritual kingdom. Brahmabhuyaya kalpate, they at once become situated in the transcendental kingdom. Devotional service in full Krishna consciousness is the only means for attaining the highest perfection of life for the human being. This is recommended herein by Lord Kapila to his mother, Devahuti. Bhakti is therefore nirguna, free from all tinges of material qualities. Although the discharge of devotional service appears to be like material activities, it is never saguna or contaminated by material qualities. Tad Gunashrayaya means that Lord Krishna's transcendental activities are so sublime that there is no need to divert one's attention to any other activities. This behavior with the devotees is so exalted that a devotee need not try to divert his attention to any other worship. It is said that the maniac Putana came to kill Krishna by poisoning him, but because Krishna was pleased to suck her breast, she was given the same position as his mother. Devotees pray, therefore, that if a demon who wanted to kill Krishna gets such exalted position, why should they go to any other? Why should they go to anyone other than Krishna for their worshipful attachment? There are two kinds of religious activities, one for material advancement and the other for spiritual advancement. By taking shelter under the lotus feet of Krishna, one is endowed with both kinds of prosperity, material and spiritual. Why then should one go to any demigod? Okay, so the materialists, they're endowed with material prosperity, but the devotees are endowed with material and spiritual prosperity. So, devotees are not interested in demigods who can give them material prosperity. They're interested in Krishna, who can give them material and spiritual prosperity. That's the difference between demigods and Krishna. Demigods can give material prosperity, no doubt about it. But Krishna can give material and spiritual prosperity. Therefore, if you're going to take shelter of someone, you should take shelter of Krishna. And it's a very interesting statement here. It says, devotees pray, therefore, that if a demon who wanted to kill Krishna gets such an exalted position, such as Putana, Why should they go to anyone other than Krishna for their worshipful attachment? There are two kinds of religious activities, one for material advancement and the other for spiritual advancement. By taking shelter under the lotus feet of Krishna, one is endowed with both the kinds of prosperity, material and spiritual. Why then should one go to any demigod? Okay, there it is. The proof that we should only worship Krishna. Okay, once again, it's full. Oh, thank you. Okay, so by taking shelter under the lotus feet of Krishna, one is endowed or blessed with both kinds of prosperity, material and spiritual. Why then should one go to any demigod? Text 23. Engagement in Krishna consciousness and application of devotional service unto Krishna make it possible to advance in knowledge and detachment as well as in self-realization. So we should be we should be engaged in devotional service. Why? Because we advance in knowledge, detachment, and self-realization. This is much more important than anything else. Knowledge, detachment, as well as self-realization. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. It is said by less intelligent men that bhakti yoga or devotional service is meant for persons who are not advanced in transcendental knowledge and renunciation. But the fact is that if one engages in devotional service to the Lord in full Krishna consciousness, he does not have to attempt separately to practice detachment or wait for awakening of transcendental knowledge. Okay, well, that's a very profound statement because devotional service to Lord Krishna, in other words, fully conscious devotional service for Lord Krishna, will bless the devotee with all knowledge and all protection so that he can continue to make spiritual advancement. So you don't have to practice or wait for an awakening of transcendental knowledge. You simply engage in devotional service to the Lord in full Krishna consciousness. It is said that one who engages unflinchingly, that means without any fall down or any tangential behavior, in the devotional service of the Lord, actually has all good qualities of the demigods developed in him automatically. Well, that's a condition that one engages unflinchingly. That's, in other words, without any, let's say, hiatus or breakdown in devotional service. Then one gets all the good qualities of the demigods. One can discover such good qualities. One cannot discover how such good qualities develop in the body of a devotee. But actually, it happens. There is one instance where a hunter, I think it was Magari, was taking pleasure in killing animals. Well, he would half kill them and then he would torture them until they died. But after becoming a devotee, he was not interested to kill even an ant. Such is the quality of a devotee. Those who are very eager to advance in transcendental knowledge can engage themselves in pure devotional service without wasting time in mental speculation. For arriving at the positive conclusions of knowledge in the absolute truth, the word Brahma Darshanam is significant in this verse. Brahma Darshanam means to realize or to understand the transcendence, meaning understanding Krishna. One who engages in the service of Vasudeva can actually realize what Brahman is, what is the absolute truth. If Brahman is impersonal, then there is no question of darshanam, which means seeing face to face. This is a very important statement. Darshanam refers to seeing the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vasudeva. Unless the seer and the seen are persons, there is no darshanam. Brahma darshanam means that as soon as one sees the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he can at once realize what impersonal Brahman is. A devotee does not need to make separate investigations to understand the nature of Brahman. Bhagavad Gita also confirms this. Brahma Bhuyaya Kalpate. A devotee at once becomes self-realized soul, becomes a self-realized soul in the absolute truth. Yeah, in other words, you don't have to go through different stages of life to understand absolute truth. If you become a devotee, you automatically can understand what is mundane life and what is spiritual life. And you can come in direct contact to see Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And then you also realize what impersonal Brahman is, and so forth. A devotee does not need to make separate investigations. Okay, that's a significant statement. Separate investigations to understand the nature of Brahman or the truth. Bhagavad Gita also confirms this. Brahma Bhuyaya Kalpate. A devotee at once becomes a self-realized soul in the absolute truth. So becoming a devotee is the real, let's say, quickest and most profound way to attain spiritual knowledge. You don't have to do anything else. Yes.
I couldn't completely understand when you said unless the seer and the seen are persons, there is no darshanam. I don't understand how seer and seen connect to um, Krishna. I'm not understanding. So could you clarify more?
Okay. Darshanam refers to seeing the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vasudeva. Unless the seer and the seen are persons, there is no darshanam, no seeing Krishna.
Oh, so who are the seer and the saints?
Well, you are the seer, and Krishna is the seen.
So we cannot see Krishna if there is no.
So Brahma Darshana means that as soon as one sees the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he can at once realize what impersonal Brahman is. A devotee does not need to make separate investigations to understand the nature of Brahman. Bhagavad Gita also confirms this, Brahma Bhuyaya Kalpate. A devotee at once becomes a self-realized soul in the absolute truth. Well, if you surrender to Krishna, then you don't have to go through any other processes to make spiritual advancement. You come directly to the highest level of spiritual advancement. So that's the whole idea of darshan. Darshan. It means seeing the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Unless the seer and the seen are persons, there's no darshanam. Well, you are the seer, and the seen is Krishna. And unless the seer and the seen are persons, there's no darshanam. There's no real principle of darshan.
So, in other words, no real principle is Krishna.
Well, yeah, that's you can't look. You can't meditate on something that is not Krishna. You have to meditate on Krishna. That means you're a person, and Krishna is a person, and he's not an ordinary person. He's the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But if you meditate on something else that's a mundane person or an animal or something, then or a mountain, then there's no darshan. You're not actually seeing something that is elevating you to a higher level of Krishna consciousness. Brahma darshanam means that as soon as one sees the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he can at once realize what impersonal Brahman is. A devotee does not need to make separate investigations. In other words, you don't have to go step by step to try and understand Krishna. You can immediately surrender to Krishna, and you avoid going through all the different steps of trying to come to Krishna consciousness. That's exactly what Prabhupada did. He told devotees to chant Hare Krishna, follow the regulative principles. Then they did not have to go through a step-by-step process of Krishna consciousness or purification. They became purified immediately by chanting Hare Krishna and engaging in devotional service. They didn't have to do this yoga or that yoga step by step to attain perfection in spiritual life. They immediately came to perfection in spiritual life by surrendering themselves to Prabhupada and Krishna and engaging in devotional service. That's why the statement is made here. It is said that one who engages unflinchingly, that means without any stoppage, without being engaged in a stop and go type of life, who engages unflinchingly in the devotional service of the Lord, that means they never fall down, that means they never give up, they don't take a vacation, right? So it is said that one who engages unflinchingly in the devotional service of the Lord actually has all the good qualities of the demigods developed in him automatically. In other words, you don't have to go through a step-by-step process to become a pure devotee. If you engage unflinchingly, that means without any stop and go type of way, but you always stay engaged in devotional service, then you actually attain perfection. by this regulated and steady devotional service. You don't have to do hatha yoga or raja yoga or this yoga or that yoga. You just practice Krishna consciousness purely and sincerely, and you attain all the perfections that take sometimes many lifetimes of yogis who do meditation and things like that. It is said that one who engages unflinchingly in devotional service of the Lord actually has all the good qualities of the demigods developed in him automatically. One cannot discover how such good qualities develop in the body of a devotee, but actually it happens. There is one instance where a hunter was taking pleasure in killing animals. That's Megari. His name was Megari. But after becoming a devotee, he was not prepared to kill even an ant. Such is the quality of a devotee. Those who are very eager to advance in transcendental knowledge can engage themselves in pure devotional service without wasting time in mental speculation. For arriving at the positive conclusions of knowledge and the absolute truth, the word Brahma Darshanam is significant in this verse. Brahma Darshana means to realize or to understand the transcendence. Okay, but what does that mean in simple language? To understand your relationship with Krishna. One who engages in the service of Vasudeva, okay, now Vasudeva is another name of Krishna, can actually realize what Brahman is. Brahman means the absolute truth. If Brahman is impersonal, then there's no question of darshanam, which means seeing face to face. In other words, if you're not a Mayavadi, but you're an actual devotee, then you'll be able to see Krishna face to face. Darshanam means and refers to seeing the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vasudeva. Well, that whenever they open the curtains in the temple, you're coming face to face to Krishna. That doesn't happen when you go to a movie or when you uh, engage in mundane activities. But if you come to the temple and the curtain opens, you're face to face to Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And next it says, unless the seer and the seen are persons, there is no darshanam. So if you are seeing, let's say, a mountain, or you're seeing a sunrise or sunset, you're not really making any real spiritual advancement. Now, some people say, oh, no, what are you talking about? I mean, it's so profound to see the sunset, or it's so profound to see the sun come up, right? So people will, special days, they will try and see the sunrise, right? So the sun comes up and all of a sudden all the darkness goes away. So they they'll get up very early in the morning to see the sunrise as if it's some big spiritual experience. But that's not really darshan. That's not really seeing. That's why it says darshan or darshanam refers to seeing the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vasudeva. So just seeing the sunrise, like it's something that a lot of people do, thinking it's like an experience of a spiritual experience. It's not actually a spiritual experience. Real darshan or real seeing face to face Krishna refers to seeing the Supreme Personality of Godhead Vasudeva, unless the seer and the seen are persons. Okay, so seeing the sunrise is not real darshan. Unless the seer and the seen are persons, there is no darshanam. Brahma darshanam means that as soon as one sees the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he can at once realize what impersonal Brahman is. A devotee does not need to make separate investigations to understand the nature of Brahman or the nature of the truth, the absolute truth. Bhagavad Gita also confirms this, Brahma Bhuyaya Kalpate. A devotee at once becomes a self-realized soul in absolute truth. So that's what devotees experienced when they came in contact with Prabhupada. Almost overnight, they became purified by engaging in devotional service and following Prabhupada's instructions. So someone would come to the temple, they were a complete Mayavadi or a complete nonsense person. But if they followed the regulative principles with the other devotees and always stayed connected to Srila Prabhupada, just like we do every day, we read Prabhupada's purports every day. We talk about Prabhupada. So you make very quick, tangible devotional elevation by coming in contact with devotees or genuine devotees and engaging in devotional service. So eventually one engages in unflinching devotional service to the Lord. And such a person has all the good qualities of the demigods develop in him automatically. One cannot discover how such good qualities develop in the body of a devotee, but actually it happens. There is one instance where a hunter was taking pleasure in killing animals, but after becoming a devotee, he was not prepared to kill even an ant. Such is the quality of a devotee. That's Megari. He used to half kill animals, and then he would torture them until they died. But after he came in contact with Krishna, he stopped doing that. And then he wouldn't even kill an ant. Those who are very eager to advance in transcendental knowledge can engage themselves in pure devotional service. So you have to be very eager. Yeah, just like some people are very eager to go and see a soccer match or a football game. And you'll see, thousands of people in the football stadium. And they get really excited, right, when somebody kicks the ball into the net, and they stand up and they start making all kinds of noises, and they feel like some kind of ecstasy to see the ball go into the, if it's basketball, it's into the baskets. Or if it's football, you cross the line, or if it's soccer, again, you have to put the ball into the net. They get excited seeing the ball go into the net. They'll stand up, they'll start making noises, they jump up and down, they're in ecstasy, all for nothing. Okay. Yeah, so this is a very important statement Prabhupada makes. Those who are very eager to advance in transcendental knowledge can engage themselves in pure devotional service without wasting time in mental speculation. For arriving at the positive conclusions of knowledge. I like that. Positive conclusions of knowledge in the absolute truth. The word Brahma Darshanam is significant in this verse. So Brahma Darshanam means you're seeing Krishna face to face. Brahma Darshana means to realize or to understand the transcendence, means Krishna. One who engages in the service of Vasudeva can actually realize what Brahman is. Well, Brahman is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. If Brahman is impersonal, then there is no question of darshanam. There's no question of seeing, which means seeing face to face. Darshanam refers to seeing the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vasudeva. Unless the seer and the seen are persons, there is no darshanam. And that's a very important statement. Yeah, so if you're meditating on the statue of a cow, that's not darshanam. Yeah, when in the Bible, at one point, who was it? Moses. He went up into a mountain and he brought the tablet of the Ten Commandments. But when he saw that while he was going up the mountain and bringing the tablet of the Ten Commandments, the people who were waiting made a deity of a golden cow and started worshiping it. Well, at least it was a cow, right? But so when he saw that, and when he came back with the Ten Commandments, and he saw that, he got so angry, he broke the Ten Commandments, right? So then he had to go back up on the mountain and bring them again. He was so upset with these people. He like chastised them very bad because they had the habit of worshiping idols of cows and other types of things. And so while waiting for Moses to come with the Ten Commandments, they built the form of a cow and started worshiping it. So when he saw that, he got so angry, he broke the Ten Commandments. So now he had to go back again on this mountain and get the Ten Commandments a second time and come back. And he chastised the people. What are you doing? This is nonsense. You don't worship a cow. You don't worship the form of a cow. So, but that's what people are doing. You don't worship someone like Elon Musk just because he's so rich or he makes really nice cars or whatever. He's just an ordinary human being. He has a little bit of good intelligence for mundane achievements, but he's not actually a spiritual person. Even if he was a spiritual person, still, he would not worship him. He would worship Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. You give respect to a person who is a devotee, but you don't worship that person. You worship Krishna. Now, there is worship of devotees, pure devotees, but they're not on the same level as Krishna, but they are given respect and even worship because they are always teaching people about who Krishna is and how to surrender to Krishna. Brahma Darshana means to realize or to understand the transcendence. Okay, so it's when it makes a statement like that, and it puzzles some people. What does it mean? Understand the transcendence. Transcendence means what is above mundane life, what is not material, what is spiritual. One who engages in the service of Vasudeva, Vasudeva is another name of Krishna, can actually realize what Brahman is. Well, Brahman is the absolute truth. If Brahman is impersonal, then there's no question of darshan. Okay, that's a major statement right there. If Brahman is impersonal, there's no question of darshanam, which means seeing face to face. Darshanam refers to seeing the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vasudeva. Unless the seer and the seen are persons, there is no darshanam. So seeing a golden cow and worshiping it is not darshanam. You have to see uh, the form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead face to face. Therefore, every day we have darshan. We see the form of the Lord face to face. Darshanam refers to seeing the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vasudeva. Unless the seer and the seen are persons, there is no darshanam. Or one can say it well when they open the curtain. I see the form of the Lord, but it's just a statue. Ah, that's a mistake. The deity is not just a statue. But when the Pran Pratishtha ceremony has taken place, that ceremony is inviting Krishna to come into the body of the deity that has made under the by following the description in the Shastra of the deity or of Krishna. So when it's followed properly, then the deity is no different than Krishna. And the Pran ceremony is inviting Krishna to come into the form that is made. It could be of different material elements, but now the deity comes into that form that's made after the description of the form of Krishna, as explained in the Vedic literature. It's not an imaginary form like you build you worship a cow, or you worship something else. Those things are imaginary, but if you follow the description of the form of Krishna given in the Shastras, and you make a deity according to that, and then perform the Pran Pratishtha ceremony where you invite Krishna to come into that form that is made uh, according to the description of his form in the Shastra, then it is actually Krishna. Well, someone might say, well, I don't see him walking around and talking. But actually, there are examples of Krishna who was walking and talking. So you have to read the Shastras and hear the histories of Krishna's transcendental pastimes. Then you realize that his deity form is not a statue. It is the real Supreme Personality Godhead. And the deity of the Lord can walk and talk if it wants to. And there are examples of that. That's why here it says, unless the seer and the seen are persons, there is no darshanam. Brahma darshanam means that as soon as one sees the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he can at once realize that impersonal Brahman. He can at once realize what impersonal Brahman is. Okay, what does this mean? As soon as one sees the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he can at once realize what impersonal Brahman is. Well, impersonal Brahman is a is not the supreme realization of God. It is a stepping stone toward God, but it's not the absolute vision of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So impersonal Brahman is it's something that the Mayavadis are seeking, but not the devotees. A devotee does not need to make separate investigations to understand the nature of Brahman. Bhagavad Gita also confirms this. Brahma Bhuyaya Kalpate. A devotee at once becomes a self-realized soul in the absolute truth because he directly worships Krishna in his eternal form. And therefore, he doesn't have to go through different stages of elevation to come to the absolute truth. He comes directly by worshiping Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That's why it says, Brahma Bhuyaya Kalpate. A devotee at once becomes a self-realized soul in the absolute truth. And how is that? This is exactly what Prabhupada was doing. He brought devotees from being hippies to becoming genuine devotees and seeing face to face the form of the Supreme Personality of God in the temple and worshiping the Lord in his bona fide form in the temple. So, darshanam, seeing, means seeing the Supreme Personality Godhead, Vasudeva. Unless the seer and the seer seen are persons, there's no darshanam. So the deity is not a statue. If it has been consecrated properly with the pran pratishtha ceremony, and the priests have invited Krishna to live in the form that was made according to the descriptions in the Shastra, then the deity is actually a person, and one can worship the deity. It's not a statue anymore. Of course, materialists, they see the deity and they think they're statues, but the devotee understands that they're not statues, and he worships them. And there are instances in which the deity actually talks and walks to prove that the deity is not just some type of stone or something that is not alive. The deity is a living entity. So what does it say here? As soon as one sees the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he can at once realize what impersonal Brahman is. Well, impersonal Brahman is a stepping stone toward Krishna consciousness, but is not the supreme absolute truth. It is an aspect of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So now the devotee is seeing properly. If he thinks that Brahman realization, impersonal Brahman realization, is the absolute truth, they're an illusion. But if a devotee sees properly, then he understands that the impersonal Brahman realization is just a stepping stone toward the supreme absolute truth, Krishna, in his eternal form. That's why it says a devotee does not need to make separate investigations to understand the nature of Brahman, or the nature of the absolute truth. Bhagavad Gita also confirms this. Brahma Bhuyaya Kalpate. A devotee at once becomes a self-realized soul in the absolute truth by engaging in devotional service to the Lord in the association of genuine devotees. Now, he makes very quick spiritual advancement, and he comes in face to face with the Lord in the form of his transcendental, in the form of the deity. So it is said, one who engages unflinchingly in devotional service of the Lord actually has all the good qualities of the demigods, develop in him automatically. That means you don't have to do exercises to develop all the good qualities. One has to engage simply in unflinching devotional service of the Lord, which is what Prabhupada was teaching us and still teaching us. We should give up everything and just engage without any hiatus, without any stoppage in the devotional service of the Lord. That means worshiping the deity every day, coming to the temple, chanting your rounds or chanting the holy names of the Lord, and being engaged in different types of devotional service. So you come directly in contact with Krishna. So those who are very eager to advance in transcendental knowledge can engage themselves in pure devotional service without wasting time in mental speculation. Very important statement. For arriving at the positive conclusions of knowledge and the absolute truth, the word Brahma Darshanam is significant in this verse. Brahma Darshanam means to realize or to understand the transcendence. One who engages in the service of Vasudeva, meaning Krishna, can actually realize what Brahman is. Yeah, Brahman is the Brahma Jyoti and Paramatma and Krishna. That's real Brahman. It's not just the Brahma Jyoti. Brahman realization, those three different levels of realization of Krishna. For the Brahma, for the let's say lower class people, they stop at the Brahma Jyoti realization. It is one aspect of the truth or the Krishna. But the devotees, they don't stop there. They keep going to Paramatma and then eventually to Krishna. Now they're seeing the full Brahman realization. Brahman realization is not only impersonal Brahman, it's Brahmana. It's Brahman realization is understanding Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. That's real Brahman realization. Okay, any questions? So now we understand that Brahman realization, the full Brahman realization is Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. That's real Brahman realization. It's not just seeing the light. That's one aspect, but you advance to seeing the light, to seeing the form of the Lord, and then ultimately surrendering to the Lord completely. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare. Any questions?
No question, Maharaj.
No questions. Okay. Well, my dear devotees, thank you very much. Please chant Hare Krishna and be happy. And always remember Krishna and never forget Krishna. Those are two rules that you should follow in Krishna consciousness. Then you won't have any problems. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you very much. And I will hear from you and see you 11 hours from now. Hare Krishna.